prayer request a while ago. I failed to mention Jack Worthing called me this morning at the house. He wants y'all to keep him and Lucy in prayer. Lucy's sister passed away. She had been feeling sick for a few days, and they believe that she started in the hospital in the emergency room or see the doctors, but anyway, they found her in the parking lot of the hospital. They didn't pick up. There was some time there in between that they had no idea where she was at. Her son couldn't find her, and they called Lucy, and she didn't know she hadn't heard from her that day. And they called the police, and they started searching. They found her in the parking lot of the hospital. So keep Lucy in prayer. She's going to be with the family to say goodbye to her sister. So keep him in your prayer. And Mick, there's several in you that probably hadn't heard the news. I don't know. Mick was told that he had cancer some months back. And through prayer, and he went to the doctor, and they went through some treatments. But Wednesday, Mick went back to the doctor, and there's nothing there. It's gone. I'm thankful this morning for God that loves us that much, but you. Amen. Prayer works. You know something, and it goes with today's service, and I want to share this too. There's something about prayer that in order for it to work, we have to submit our prayers to God, then we have to submit our will to God. Mick had told me some weeks back that whatever God chose, he was okay with it. He says, if he heals me, that's fine. If he don't, that's fine too. Now, is that not an attitude to have? Amen. Is that not a peaceful attitude to have? God can work with us when we're like that. And he will work with us. Sometimes we get to the point of where if we have good health and everything's going pretty good for us, we seem to get away from God, don't we? We don't seem to really concentrate on how important God is to us. You know, God is just as important to each one of us right now as he was to me Wednesday morning.
Amen.
Wednesday afternoon.
Maybe. It's very important.
Because we, without God, we're not drawing our next breath. No matter who you are, no matter what your health seems to be right now, without God, there is no life. Without God, there is no love. Fathers, we come to you this morning to open up your word here for a few minutes. Well, we want to talk about two things we were talking about last week, but we want to add to them. And hopefully, Lord, that we can leave with a changed heart and changed mind. At least a heart and mind that's willing to think and to be led by your Spirit. For in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I'm going to read one line here comes from Great Controversy. They had no proper appreciation of the character of God or of the sacredness of his law, and his service to them had become a common thing. What does that last line mean? His service had become a common thing. What's common to you?
Something you have no real appreciation for.
Well, something that's common is something you do every day that no real appreciation. It's just something that you do because you're used to doing it. Yeah, taking it for granted. That's a good one.
Not special.
Not special. Habit. Yeah. See, all these are good terms for using common. Is that the way our worship has become? Common. When you walk through those doors, why have you come here? To worship God.
Common connotates lack of respect as well.
Pardon?
Common, the word common connotates the lack of respect.
Lack of respect. It does, yes. That's a good point. That's why I want us to talk about this. That's why I want us to think about this. It's not me preaching to you. This is me and you, each of us as members and children of God, having a discussion about our Father. Now, have you ever had your kids to have a discussion about you, Derek? Maybe you didn't want to listen to it. I know I catch Daniel and Gage looking at me and whispering to one another. I can only imagine what those two are talking about. But God wants us to talk about Him, doesn't He? He wants us to talk about Him and what He wants us to do in His service. Do you think He wants our service to Him to be common and ordinary? Something should be special about it, shouldn't it? Something should be special about the worship of God. Now, can we worship God anywhere we are? Absolutely, we should be. But why sometimes is that worship in church, in His sanctuary, not what it should be?
Service starts the day you get preach. It starts.
Did everybody hear that? Did everybody hear that? Say it, Danny.
But we don't know when the worship service starts.
That ain't no power.
That's all right.
We think it starts when you get up to preach. It starts when we come through those doors.
Amen.
Did everybody hear that?
Amen.
It starts when we come through those doors, not when I stand up to preach. You know, in the Old Testament sanctuary service, when they came in to that courtyard, the only thing that was heard was the bleating of the lambs and the repentance of sin. That's the only thing was heard. And in the holy place, there was nothing heard except for the service itself. In the most holy, there was only one person went in there one time a year, and you know that was a quiet reverent place. When we come here, we come to God's house to be in worship with Him. We come to worship Him, and we come to be reverent in His home. You know, I walk into my house, everybody outside, and it usually is the last few days. Walk through the yard, up on the porch, up into the house, and I walk through the house in my muddy boots. Does that show any respect in my life? Doesn't show any respect for myself either. But if I come into the house in that mud and that dirt, and I walk in and I pull my boots off and leave them at the door and I walk in the house, my wife sees my soft feet, no mud, she may not say thank you. I guarantee you she's in her mind appreciating the fact that I didn't love His glory. She just not. Well, see, God's house, His sanctuary, His presence, and this is a poor illustration. His presence is a clean place. Now we worship in here, pound vacuums is. It's vacuumed and clean. But that's not the clean I'm talking about right now. The clean I'm talking about right now is our personal relationship with God? How have we prepared ourselves to meet with the Creator of heaven? How have we prepared ourselves to come into His presence in His house? Have we taken our spiritual shoes off? Have we wiped our feet before we come in? Have we given respect and honor to the one that we're coming in to meet? Yes, God is all over the place. He's all outside. He is. He's everywhere. No matter where we go, we find God. But let me read something to you that's kind of... I read this last week, but I don't know how many really heard it. I want to try it again. From the sacredness which was attached to the earthly sanctuary, Christians may learn they should regard the place where the Lord meets with His people. There has been a great change, not for the better, but for the worse, in the habits and customs of the people in reference to religious worship. The precious sacred things which connect us with God are fast losing their hold upon our minds and hearts and are being brought down to the level of common things. It's our worship. And folks, I'm guilty. I'm guilty. I am guilty. The reverence which the people had in the sanctuary and for the sanctuary where they met God in the sacred service has largely passed away. Nevertheless, God Himself gave the order of His service, exalting it high above everything in temporal nature. Now here He talks about the change with respect that people have to the old sanctuary system, and we should be learning from that respect and that reverence from that sanctuary system. It's gone from reverence to common. How many has ever been on an airplane? You go up, and you have a bottle of water with you, and you drink some out of it, and you land. That bottle was kind of wrinkled. Have you ever noticed that? Or if you climb a high mountain and you drink part of the bottle of water and put it in the back, and you come down that mountain, you come down, and it's kind of wrinkled. What causes that?
Atmospheric pressure change.
You know, in the world that we live in, things around us puts pressure on us. Our tensions. You know, they say that laughing and joking is one of the great pressure reliefs, and it is. And laughter is something God promotes, isn't it?
He certainly does.
A merry heart doeth good like medicine. Laughter is a good thing. But there's places right for it, places that are not. But we as people, whatever we're around, when we have those pressures, and we lose some of ourselves. We lose what's inside. And we get to a point where we want to be opened up and we want to receive something good. Like this bottle. When I open it up, what's going to happen? It's going to suck in whatever's around it. Whatever's around it is what's going to go inside. Folks, that's the way we are. Whatever's around us, that's what's going to fill the void of our spiritual needs. He's going to fill that hole in our hearts, that desire that we have for God. Whatever's around us, if it isn't godly, it's going to come in our hearts. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because where there's a hole, that hole has to be filled. And if we're in God's sanctuary, if we're in church, and we come here for a spiritual blessing, is that why we're not here to meet with God and be blessed spiritually, to grow in His grace? Is that not part of why we're here? But if we come to His sanctuary, we come to His church, and as we read the paragraph from Great Controversy a while ago, the home is the sanctuary of the family. But the church, here, this is the sanctuary of God's children, where we come to talk about Him and talk with Him. And it should be reverent, shouldn't it? It should have meaning to it, shouldn't it? And we prepare ourselves when we come and meet the Lord here in His house. Now, last week, and I'm rushing again, and I promise we'll not have the same one next week. I promise that. God's the one that makes the decision. Last week, we didn't get to verse 31. Regard not them that have familiar spirits, neither seek after wizards that defile by them. I am the Lord thy God. Regard not them that have familiar spirits, neither seek after wizards to be defiled by them. I am the Lord thy God. Now, familiar spirits. When we talk about familiar spirits, what do you think of? What comes to your mind when the Bible talks about familiar spirits?
Demons. Demons.
You know, in Samuel, after Saul had went about as low as he could go, he went to the witch of Endor to seek what? Familiar spirits. Now, why does God in Leviticus chapter 19 and verse 31, why does He connect familiar spirits with sanctuary and reverence, or Sabbath and reverence? In verse 30, He talks about the Sabbath, keeping it holy, and reverencing His sanctuary. And the Bible commentary is very continued that many reverenced the sanctuary, but they didn't keep the Sabbath holy, and many kept the Sabbath holy and didn't keep reverence for the sanctuary. God put those two together because they go together. To have one, you have to have the other. Reverence in the sanctuary, if it's not there, then the Sabbath is being essentially broken. You're breaking the Sabbath. What more holy place is there on God's holy? Both of them are holy, right? The sanctuary is holy and the Sabbath is holy. So if you mess up on one of them, you're messing up on the other. Do you agree to that? Do we agree to that? If we mess up on one, we can mess up on the other. Okay? Now Samuel, little by little, went down. When he was first put in place of the king, as king, the Bible speaks highly of him. But each section of Samuel, when you read the history of Saul, didn't start out with one single thing. It was many in succession of mistakes and decisions to be made. So finally he came to the point that he went out seeking someone with a familiar spirit. Now, we think about a familiar spirit as what Saul went after. He wanted to talk to Samuel. Samuel had been dead for some time. Now, did this woman have Samuel in her house?
No.
No. Satan was there. The evil angel. That someone to have an evil spirit does not mean that they are possessed. You see what I'm saying? For someone to have a familiar spirit doesn't mean that they are themselves demon possessed. It is that they have a demon for their friend. See the difference?
That's right.
See the difference? They're not demon possessed, but they are in company of demons.
Amen.
Now, in God's sanctuary, I'm not saying that anybody here is having contact with a demon. When we break it all down to the familiar spirits, is that we have actions of other people. See what I'm saying? Now, how many times do you see? I want to use Ed LaRue again, for example. I've had a lot of sermons of Ed. Used to hang around over at Ed's when I was working on my truck and other things. Should have been doing. But people would come around to Ed's place, and after a while, I could call out from under my truck, and it's kind of odd to watch. But some of the people that come around, after a while, they'd start trying to imitate Ed. They'd start trying to act like Ed. They'd start trying to talk like Ed. And I used to laugh at people. They'd come in. They wouldn't be there long. Before they left, they was trying to be like Ed. But that, I found out later, is human nature too. Is we find somebody or something that we like or respect, and we try to act like them, don't we? We try to be like them. Why do we think that so many people today are taking hold of Hollywood? How quick can a child, adult either, for that matter, really, but how quick can a child start repeating and singing songs that they hear on the radio or on TV or on movies that's not really good to be watching? It has a lot of stuff that's a kid should never see them. Adults shouldn't see them, let alone a kid. But how long does it take them to start imitating that?
Turn on the dies.
Huh?
You can turn on the dies.
Almost immediately. You know, it's what we let come in as to how we act when we come into the sanctuary. So that tells me I'm making a lot of mistakes through the week myself. If you hadn't noticed, I'm one that I like to joke and laugh and cut up. But I do know, and I've learned this in the last 10 years, you take a joke that I knew back 20, 30 years ago, I can remember them better than I can remember the jokes that's clean today. Why is that? Why is that? It's because Satan sees to it that things come up to remind me of these things. And especially when we're in church. What better place can God, or does Satan have to get your mind off God than in church? What better place can he try to deter you, steer you the wrong way, other than in God's own house? And I think he does a pretty good job of it. You know, reverence in the sanctuary, what does it mean to you? What does it mean to me? It may not be the same thing. You know, because God tells us that, the Bible tells us that the temptations that comes to us is different one from another. Things that will tempt Derek will have no effect on me because I'm not tempted by it. And vice versa. There's things that I struggle with and deal with. Doesn't bother her. So, worship in the sanctuary, reverence in the sanctuary, may be different one from another. But it all ought to be pointed toward God and how we feel toward Him. And what are we letting into our minds? And what are we letting, especially when we walk through these doors, like we talked about last week. You know, you have a whole church here. You have the fellowship hall downstairs. You have the whole church from the sanctuary all the way back. I dare say that there's what's here today. If we stood at the front door and held hands, I don't think we could reach the back of the church. It's how big the church is. We have all kinds of room for everything else. We have all kinds of room for discussions of other things and attitudes. If Danny and I were struggling with something together, if we had an argument together, I don't want to say argument, if we had a disagreement together, would in here be the place for me and him to work that out?
No.
It'd be a good place to come pray. So we need to work it out outside, don't we, Danny? Things that I've done all week, and I want to share with the world. And I'm saying the things that I've done. I mean, you know, things that I've done, and I want to share it. I need to share that with you outside. Not in here. And what we share in here is like me. What God has done. Glory to God. That's what we share in here.
Amen.
That's what this room is about. Because it's a holy place for a holy God that does holy things for me and you. That loves me and you. And those familiar spirits that we pack around with us, that we are associated with, has no place with us in the sanctuary. And we need to try to get rid of those familiar spirits. You know, there's many things that we watch the world do that we like to imitate. Isn't that how fads get started? You know, you can hear a certain individual on a TV show or a movie or out in Hollywood, if they can make one little sentence, one line, one short line, one liner, and it doesn't take long, and the whole country is repeating that little simple one liner. How about the one liner? God, I want to respect you. How about we have that in our heart? And we share that. If we'd all share those kind of thoughts through the week, I think the Sabbath would be much better than we work. Somebody made a suggestion to me, and I think it's a good one. I noticed that a couple of people are already doing it. So when we come in and we look at the bulletin and we see the scripture for that day, we take and read before and after those scriptures to get an idea about what's coming. We come in and sit down and open our Bible in the sanctuary. Wouldn't that be a good idea?
Yes, it is.
Wouldn't that be a great idea? That we come in to God's house, we open His book, and we read from His Word. Yeah, Derek said they're agreeing. I know that you. Derek's one I can, each week, I can come into church, and while class is going on, I'm back there. Derek comes up to me and he tries to tell me what my sermon's about. And usually it gets pretty close. And I'm thankful for that. You know, I can tell who reads. But that is a great idea. I'm not saying you have to do that by no means. But I'm just saying it's a good idea. That when we come into the sanctuary, we have a bulletin in our hand, a bulletin, and we look at the scripture, and we read around that scripture. And let the Lord Would that not be giving glory to God and honor to God? I thank God today for each one of you. The house is the sanctuary to the family. I'm going to read it again. And the closet or the grove, the most retired place for an individual worship. Do we have worship in our homes? We each have an individual place we go. I don't know where yours is. It may be still in your home. There may be some place you go for that special time with God. But the church is the sanctuary for the congregation. Hebrews chapter 10 tells us not to forsake the assembling of ourselves together, as somehow in the last days. Even more, as we see the day approaching, we need to get together more in reverence to God. There should be rules in regards of the place and the manner of worship. Nothing that is sacred, nothing that pertains to the worship of God should be treated with careless indifference, in order that men may do their best work in showing forth the praises of God. Their associations must be such as will keep the sacred distinct from the common in their mind. To keep the sacred and distinct from the common that's in their mind. See, the common is going to be in their mind because we still live in this world. But there's a place that they need to be separated. And this is it. Father in heaven, we come to you with thanksgiving. Thank you for the sanctuary that you've given us. We thank you, Lord, for the forgiveness. We thank you, Lord, not only for justification, but, Lord, for sanctification. And Lord, as we're being sanctified day by day, Lord, help us to keep the holy and from the common, keep them separate, especially in your house. Help us, Lord, to do your will in your way as we keep the Sabbath, reverence the sanctuary. And the Holy Spirit we ask for is the Holy Spirit. Which in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.